particular theme, and that is Cuba. Back in the 1950s, Cuba was, well, it was basically an American colony run by a corrupt dictator, but in 1959 was overthrown by Fidel Castro, and ever since then, the U.S. has had bad relations with Cuba. In 1961, it sponsored an attempt to overthrow the Castro regime, better known as the Bay of Pigs. Fortunately, things improved during the Obama administration, but still, all kinds of sanctions still exist. Soviet Union collapsed 30 years ago. There are no Russian missiles in Cuba. We're in a completely different age, but much of our foreign policy, at least as far as Cuba is concerned, is left over from the 1960s. It's up to us to bring sanity back to our foreign policy as far as Cuba is concerned.
Cuba has, since their revolution, created free, accessible health care. They've created education programs. They brought their literacy rate up to nearly 98% within the first few years of their revolution. They're taking care of people because they care about one another. And that is what is terrifying to the United States. The United States, as an empire, as a government, is only concerned about making profits for a handful of people. There's no good reason to just let people continue to suffer and die every single year because of this blockade. The people of Cuba have persisted, have found ways to work through this embargo, and we have to support them. Thank you, solidarity, everybody.
I agree with Matt that, in a way, Cuba does pose a threat to the United States because of its good example. Cuba is a country of 11.5 billion people, and despite 60 years of the most severe, mean-spirited block of sanctions ever imposed against another country, they have managed to create a society that offers free education through the university, free healthcare for everybody, not only in Cuba, but they send their Henry Reeve brigades all around the world to fight diseases like Ebola and diseases like COVID. They have a fantastic biomedical research center. They have vaccines against COVID. The US Blockade right now is trying to prevent them from buying syringes that they would need to administer the vaccine. They also would like to send brigades of healthcare workers to help fight COVID. The US government is threatening any country that accepts them with sanctions for allowing the Cubans to come and assist them. That's what we're up against. Cuba is an example of what can happen when you put human needs first. That's the threat to the government of the United States and to our corporate rulers. Thanks everybody for coming. I hope to see you all next week at the Caravan on Sunday.
The U.S., as was mentioned by Steve, we have a number of anniversaries, one of which is this week, is the 60th anniversary of the CIA-led Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba, when according to the CIA they told JFK that the people of Cuba will revolt. And instead what happened is the U.S. dropped napalm on Cuban workers who were trying to defend their country, and within a day or two all the invaders were mopped up and eventually traded for tractors so Cuba could develop its economy. So why do we say Bloqueo No? Why don't we say drop the embargo? Because an embargo is where one country says we won't trade with another. But a blockade is where you do not let anyone trade with a country. And we have an economic blockade. So we have another anniversary. April of 1960, U.S. State Department analyzed that there is no doubt that the Cuban Revolution in Fidel was very popular. Estimates indicate way over half the population are for it. And there's no effective opposition. So what can we do about it? Because we can't tolerate having an independent leftist government just 90 miles off our shore. And the strategy that was approved in secret was to, quote, bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of government, end quote, in Cuba. That has been, in fact, our policy up to, including today. And sad to say, Joe Biden has done nothing to reverse about 200 additional restrictions that Trump imposed. So that's why we're here. That's why we're going to have a caravan with the Brown Berets and Peace Action and many others next Sunday, 1 o'clock, leaving from Mitchell Park Domes. We hope you can support that, and we thank you all for being here. So, there's a slogan I'd like to share with you. Cuba Sí, Bloqueo No. Cuba Sí, Bloqueo No. Cuba Sí, Bloqueo No. Thank you very much.